Okay, so here's the plan. I'm having a little bit of trouble here. I'm working on my fable, The Legend of Beaver Dam Atlantis, and I'm struggling with concept art. So I'm gonna try to make a graphical representation of The Legend of Beaver Dam Atlantis. So real quick, I'm gonna try to go through some of the stuff gonna be working with here. So somehow I need to include in the graphical representation the concept that it covers a geographical area like this. Okay. This is a huge geographical area. So the suggestion is that here's this river and it's covering, I mean, it's like the size of the Mississippi. And then along this river, all up and down this entire valley, are extensive wetlands. I mean, so many wetlands that look like this. So here's like a micro scale representation. This is a real beaver dam. Somebody took a picture of it. It's a very nice beaver dam. It's a very well made beaver dam. Somebody went out and found a very good example. And here you can see very clearly that the water is this high, and then the water's way down here. I mean, this is a real dam. You know, this is a beaver dam. This is not something humans made. Beavers made this, and then out here in the middle is their house. So the objective of this video is to make something that looks a little bit like this. So here's a graphical representation of Beaver Dam Atlantis. So what we can see here is that here's the mountains, the Atlas Mountains nearby. And here's where the ocean is. And then here's all of the reservoirs as you go up in elevation. And the suggestion is that, yes, this is a beaver dam made by beavers, but what I'm really talking about is beaver dam analogs. And beaver dam analogs are very different. And so let me try to look up some beaver dam analogs really quick. Okay. Okay. Because beavers have a different objective than humans. So here's a beaver dam analog video on the pictures. So here we can see I mean, where the beaver makes the dam in a totally different place. Here we have a man-made stream. It's not a man-made stream, but it's certainly a regulated, human-impacted stream. And you can tell that it's human-impacted because it's narrow and it just goes in a line. Okay, so in nature, unmanaged streams, I mean, they might go like this sometimes, but not for the most part. The stream is gonna either fall off a cliff or meander, basically. It's not gonna be like a well-regulated flow. So humans went around because they're building roads and stuff like that, and they stabilized the ground everywhere, all over the place. I mean, the human earthworks in the modern era are so extensive. So I mean, this is not a natural stream right here. You know, it's just not what they look like. People built, and people redirected, and people engineered to make all of the streams that we know what to look at. And so here's a beaver dam analog, but there's something important about this picture, and that's that this is obviously a really recent construction, because all of the vegetation that you see here was obviously growing on the ground. Then they put this beaver dam analog up, and now it's all full of water. So here's some beaver dam analogs, really well constructed, and then it's making a wetland up there. Okay, so the objective of the video is to make a paint image. So here's some more pictures that I have here. Here's the collage. Okay, so here's the Taman Reset right here. And here is the Eye of the Sahara. So then looking again, here is the Eye of the Sahara. And so here's the Eye of the Sahara up close. And this is one of the places where if you look at these gargologist channels, they're not like archaeologists or anything, but they're just fantastic lore enthusiasts. So this is one of the suggested locations of Atlantis, because this Eye of the Sahara actually even has like a freshwater well in the middle, and there's salt formations around it. And so then it could have been like saltwater, freshwater, saltwater, freshwater, just like in the fable of Atlantis. Okay, so and here's where this is. It's called the Eye of Mauritania. And so the Taman Reset River Valley just moves right up here. So let's say I'm going to start with this image right here. So what I want to try to do is I want to try to make a graphical representation of this river. Okay, so here's the river. And so then what I want to do is I want to make a graphical representation of beaver dams everywhere. Nothing but beaver dams. And then I gotta figure out how to make this. And so this is Beaver Dam Atlantis. An expansive and so beavers don't have to actually even live here for this to work, because we're talking about beaver dam analogs, which is where humans, prehistory humans, were very successful because of beaver dams. Here's Mauritania here. Here's a lake. Maybe there's some water up here. I don't know. So, if you have some beavers in one part of the world, and they're making wetlands that are making the humans very successful, and the humans know about these beavers, if you're having a Mountain Dew, and they know what the beavers are doing. These are Neolithic humans or whatever, and they understand what they're gaining from these beaver dams. There's wild rice growing in the wetlands. There's tons of rodents like beavers and large water rats and lots of fish, lots of ducks everywhere. And they're hunting all this plentiful food and foraging all this plentiful food and watching out for them alligators. And then they're boating around. They're using boats to get around their reservoirs, and using boats to get up and down a slow-moving river, and using boats to sail. So we're not 100% sure when people started using boats to sail the ocean blue. But by the time of the ancient Egyptians and ancient Greeks, they were using boats to sail up and down the coastlines. And the ancient Egyptians and ancient Greeks, as far as I know, they don't actually have a history of when that started. To them, it was just like that already. And another thing that's important about these ancient civilizations at the beginning of written history is they already had pretty advanced irrigation systems. So there's different cultures going on with different stuff, but they had, compared to a beaver dam, pretty well developed irrigation infrastructure in some parts of the world. So, but you take like some cultures, like the Chinese cultures, for example, in southern Asia, they went on for thousands of years of written history, regularly flooding shallow wetlands and growing rice. And if they figured that out at random, just one day they were like, oh, we can somehow build dams and make wetlands that grows rice. I mean, it doesn't seem like it would be even possible to figure that out at random, because beavers have been around for at least 4.5 million years. And there's several people who, I don't know how good their studies are or how comprehensive their studies are. I don't have access to the educated studies databases. You have to pay for that. It's expensive. But there are papers that have recently been published about how human beings cohabitated with beavers in the early to mid Holocene, and how this may have significantly improved the livelihoods of human beings to be a part of the same ecosystem as beavers, making extensive beaver dams, making extensive wetlands, and therefore making extensive resources available to the humans, because the wetlands are so resource rich, filled with fish and birds and rodents to hunt and use for food. So if you can imagine the desert here, you could eat scorpions on a good day. They don't even have any cactus in this place, But if it was a wetlands instead, then there would be like thousands of animals in a square mile. Thousands of them, all kinds of birds and all kinds of rodents and all kinds of different animals, fish and stuff. So then you'd have plenty of food and stuff like that. And then the suggestion would be that humans can see beavers getting up to what they get up to. I mean, they had stone tools before there were even human bodies. They would understand that the beaver's cutting down a tree. I mean, it'd be quite a stretch to think somebody who has had stone tools for the last several 100,000 years can't fathom what a beaver's doing when they're cutting down a tree. That's a ridiculous proposition. Of course, they understood that the beaver was cutting down the tree, putting it in the water, and making a beaver dam. Like, there's no way. And so then, at some point, maybe these humans replicated this so that there wouldn't even need to be beavers living in this region, which we can't say if there is or not. I mean, we have no evidence of life in this region. It's so totally devastated by being a desert that there's just like no history there. It's all turned to dust, and you would have to find that history out here in the ocean. So so there could have been beavers here, maybe not, who knows. I mean, they've been around for 4.5 million years. Who's to say they never made it to Africa? But even if they didn't, the knowledge of making beaver dam analogs could have made it here. And maybe the Egyptians were making beaver dam analogs, and maybe the Sumerians were making beaver dam analogs, and maybe they were using beaver dam analogs in order to facilitate for their irrigation practices, like taking dams down and putting dams up, and using beaver dam analogs to even run the irrigation that we all know they did so well. I don't really know how it worked out, but maybe they used beaver dam analogs. So, the legend of Beaver Dam Atlantis would be that there was an extensive civilization, not a civilization, but an extensive practice by humans, a culture, if you will, passed down from generation to generation of just living out in the wetlands and building beaver dam analogs, and people would teach their kids, maybe not even an organized society, just like you make stone tools, just like you hunt, you make beaver dam analogs, you hunt, you make beaver dam analogs, you fish, you get boats, you sail from up the coastline and do trade with people in the Mediterranean. I mean, these societies are pretty advanced. It's kind of this funny thing where they're like, it's not a civilization yet. Like, what makes a civilization? Well, you gotta have blacktop roads to be a civilization, basically. So, like, if you don't have blacktop roads, you're not even like a civilization. So, like, Babylon was a civilization because they had blacktop roads, But, uncontacted tribes in the Amazon are not a civilization, even though they have rich heritage and culture and teach their kids and pass knowledge down from generation to generation, and are extremely skilled and extremely capable and are organized up with all the other tribes in the area and conduct trade. They're not a civilization because they don't have books with dates written down for transaction history of crops that are grown and stuff like that. So a civilization is like, anyways, from what I'm to understand, is a really advanced society. Like you wouldn't call even some people who are still living today in different parts of the world a civilization. Like, they're still not a civilization. It's kind of a weird thing to say to me. Kind of a weird way to understand what a civilization is. So, but if you had all of these people in this river valley building beaver dam analogs and seeing each other doing it and copying each other doing it and having a lifestyle go on for thousands of years of building beaver dam analogs and trapping and hunting and fishing and eating wild rice and being organized and having leaders and having, marriage and having, teaching children for a whole tribe and having songs that they carry from generation to generation and stories of religion and stuff like that. And all of that does not mean it was a civilization. Like, none of that means a civilization. That has nothing to do with civilization. Like, until they have like unless they have like a very specific way of recording history and a very specific written language. Then at that point you start to saying, okay, this is a civilization, but if they don't have pretty high level stuff. Yeah. So then the legend of Beaver Dam Atlantis would be that at some point, these beaver dams, they're not that good. They're no Hoover Dam. If you have like a big old lake or something like that, for 1,000 years people keep having wetlands around and developing the wetlands, and beavers are working away, and there's wetlands everywhere, and now you get a lot of water. So if you have more water, then you have more rain. If you have more rain, then you have more water. If you have more water, then you have more rain. You have more rain, you have more water, and pretty soon you start to get a lot of water building up in like giant lakes and stuff like that. And at some point, you have a bunch of water in one place. If some of this water is being held up from flowing down the river by silt that is not particularly stable, like if you build a beaver dam, like, yeah, for a while you have the sticks, but then there gets to be silt that builds up, and then you get to be sediment, and then you get to be dirt, and so then there's land. So it's land, but it would erode easily if you had if you had a particularly bad storm and the lake was high and all the rivers got full. A lot of that fairly recently deposited silt that's land, I mean, it's got plants growing on it and everything. If you had a particularly bad storm and lots of erosion, then a lot of that stuff would erode very quickly. And so then if it starts to erode very quickly, then you could open up the lake to just come flowing down the river. And then you could have like this huge flood that just wipes out all the beaver dams, all the way down to the river, wiping out the entire civilization of Atlantis all at once. And that is the legend of Beaver Dam Atlantis. So I guess I'm gonna try to go with this as a picture. I'm gonna try to make like a video where I show a bunch of pictures. And so then this video is just me working on the pictures. And I'm gonna try to capture this kind of imagery in that video and correlate it to like this other kind of imagery. Here we got some beavers. They're big. These beavers are big fellas. Let me see if I can get a video. A quick video here. Here we get this beaver chopping down a tree. So 4.5 million years ago, there used to be really big ones. Like 10 times that big. Like as big as a big old dog or something like that. Well, he doesn't get there in this video, but he'll get there eventually. Alright, thank you very much.